So who remembers the first time a friend or family member calls you in a panic and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to go to an appointment or whatever the situation may be, and I need you to watch my son or daughter, and you panic because this is the first time you've ever had to really watch a child on your own. So this is my car keys. It's a very common object, and a lot of the time I see parents at a grocery store and their kid's crying and they're screaming and the parent needs to get something done, and they just hand them their car keys and the kid is like entertained and good to go. But parenting and caring for a child is so much more complex and intricate than just handing a kid a pair of car keys or a normal everyday object. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about how to properly care for a child, how to properly discipline a child should the need arise, and and how to properly and the benefits that it can give you. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how to different styles of caregiving that there are. So there are four. There's authoritarian, permissive, and authoritative. Permissive parenting is more of a lenient style. So there are boundaries for the child, but it's more about discussing like the rules that you have set. It's more lenient and it's not as strict. Authoritative is described as having limits set for the child, but their voice is still listened to. There is a level of strictness, but there's still like conversation about discipline. And authoritarian is these parents are very strict about the rules they have set, especially when it comes to teenagers, curfews, things like that. So depending on how you are as a person or whatever it may be, you find which style is better suits for you, as well as the kind of child that you're caring for. If they are more rambunctious, that sort of thing, or if they are a more understanding child. My second point is how to properly discipline a child, and this can be very controversial with physical force and that sort of thing. So it's important to know what boundaries there are, especially if this isn't this isn't your child that you're caring for, if it's a friend or something like that. So it's important to make sure that the child knows the action they did is unacceptable, whether it's, hitting another child you're looking after. You need to make sure the child knows that that's not okay without being too harsh in your delivery. There are many ways a child can learn what they did was unacceptable without being too harsh. In the book Discipline Miracle, Dr. Linda Pearson discusses how to be a firm yet loving caregiver. She goes into say how the text I found was very informative and really can help parents and caregivers alike find different ways to discipline a child in a positive yet firm fashion. What I liked about this book is she listed 3 principles that goes into disciplining a child. The first principle discusses being a safe person for the child and making sure that they can come to you times of need. So say they can't tie their shoe, they know that they can come to you if they need help. The second principle encourages the person reading to be firm and to lovingly tell the child to accept the rules you have set in place previously for them to follow. And the third principle states that from a young age you should tell a child what it takes to be alone in the real world on a level that they understand depending on their age. She describes these principles as like a small sitting stool that has 3 legs. If you have one that has 3 legs, it works. Whenever you sit down, you're not going to fall. But if one of those principles isn't there, you're going to fall over and it's not going to work. So all these principles can't work without the other, is what she said. And my final point is the benefits that proper child care can give to a person. So when you provide a child with great care, that's going to last a long time on them. They're always going to remember how nice you were, how caring you were. If they needed help with something, you were there for them. They're always going to remember that. And it's also important to remember that no matter where a child is raised, they feel safe, loved by whoever is caring for them, whether in their foster care system, whatever the situation may be, the child needs to know that they're loved and supported no matter what. And Wendy Ball, she wrote a book that discusses how child care can be transformed. The section that I focused on in this book was how new mothers adjust their role as parents. This change is very drastic. You go from it's just you and your partner, you have this whole new life that's depending on you. And she goes over, like I said, how mothers adjust to being parents and how important it is to form a special bond with the child. She interviewed multiple new mothers, and they all agreed that being present and positive in their child's life was extremely important to both them and their new baby. And being a present caregiver has many benefits that the child will care about their well-being. So in conclusion, being a positive caregiver, finding a style of care that fits for you will make you feel better when it comes to disciplining this child. And even though if the child is small, being a loving and present caregiver in their world will really have a lasting impact on their life. So thank you.